CIO News. I'm Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and a contributing editor at CIO News. This is a recorded session and will be available on our CIO News website, which is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. This is our new series on energizing a digital future, an exclusive fireside chat powered by Crayon software experts with our digital innovators of India. A quick brief on Crayon and our presenting partner. Crayon is a global leader in IT and digital transformation services with the largest independent cloud economics practice. Let me dive in introducing my first guest for our series and one of the renowned digital innovator, Mr. Vinod Khode, the Senior Vice President and Group Chief Information Officer at Varrock. Vinod is a visionary leader with 24 years of rich experience working for companies in the India and US. Vinod has been a digital and a business leader and worked his way for companies like Humans, KPIT, ADCC Research and Computing, and many more. Vinod has provided organizations with strategic direction to the management on technology, collaborating technology with business, turnaround IT organization for improved effectiveness, managing teams with focus on outcomes and organization efficiency. Along with me today is Vikas Khosle, Chief Executive Officer at Crayon Software Experts. Vikas has overall 20 years of experience of progressive business as well as expertise around sales, marketing, strategy, operations management in the field of IT. Vikas has strong record of building teams capable of stepping up, leading to a personal advancement and career development. He's known for his ability to build a value-driven organization while delivering on the business forecast. Welcome, Vikas. Welcome, Vinod.
Thank you, Khushbu. Thanks a lot.
Over to you, Vikas, for the fireside chat.
Yeah, very generous introduction of both me and Vinod, Khushbu. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
Good evening to you, Vinod. It's nice to have you on our chat show today. So I would like to start, Vinod, by asking you and setting the stage by letting the viewers know what exactly does Varrock Engineering do? What's your business like?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me here. And as Vikas said, generous introduction. So starting with what is Varrock? Varrock as a group is a tier 1 auto component manufacturer. So we are a purely B2B organization, and within Varrock Engineering. So as a group, Varrock Engineering is the name that is known in India, and then outside India, it's Varrock Lighting System. So the presence that we have about 32 manufacturing location in India, which is under Varrock Engineering Limited, and about 16 outside India, right from and in different countries like from Morocco, Mexico, then US, Europe, in Europe, various locations like Czechoslovakia, Poland, Turkey, Italy, Germany, and then Vietnam, and all the way to China. So we have presence outside India as Varrock Lighting System. And what do we manufacture? So we manufacture a lot of auto component for OEMs, which are like Bajaj and so two-wheelers, three-wheelers in India, and then also the four-wheelers. And then outside India in VLS, it's the lighting component. It's the LED lighting for all the premium cars and all the electric vehicles which are coming on now, battery-driven vehicles. So all the LED lighting system, right from headlamp to the interiors, is a Varrock lighting system. So this is in a nutshell. And in India, where we have business units in the form of electrical business units. So it is EBU. Polymer is all the polymer parts which are manufactured for all these OEMs. And then we have metallic division, which takes care of having the metallic component like walls and other stuff. Again, which goes to the auto component OEMs.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, Vinod. So whilst a large part of your business is also catering outside of India, let's kind of really talk about India, right? We've had a very massive disruption in the economic situation in the last 12 to 14 months.
Yes.
your business, which is manufacturing, needs people to be on site, right? Its physical presence is extremely important. Given the pandemic, it'll be very interesting to know, how did you manage business continuity? How did you build resilience in the business? What kind of innovations did you bring to the table that ensured that your business was kept on, especially in the light of the fact that social distancing was such a big norm during the pandemic? How do you manage to keep the lights on in your business?
Okay, so I think as an organization, the whole management team and the operational team has done a wonderful job of keeping everything operational and meeting the business commitments which were there for all this volume. Because if you are one of the tier one auto component manufacturer and you don't ship something, which means your OEM is not able to produce, so you basically stop their line. So I think operationally we were able to do. And talking about resilience is we, in terms of, like, from my perspective, what are the things which from IT point of view which was done to ensure that the business is able to continue to produce and ship and keep the customer happy, is that the initial days when since this is something which is like totally out of books, there is no reference to what can be done. All the BCPs and all that we had, probably it was not built to this extent. So there were a lot of collaboration which was happening, and it has to, like, it used to run through days and nights too, so that before we restart our manufacturing, we start in a very safe way. What are the things which can be done? And the collaboration which was needed, which was across all these locations in India, was all done through Microsoft Teams. Unfortunately, as a strategy, we were already into it. In 2019, late 2019, we were already into the Microsoft Teams, and that helped tremendously. So both video and also the audio part of it, and then the whole concept of using Teams as one repository to keep all the documents. So there is a security team which was working, there was the health team which was working. So all the documents which were exchanged, the meetings were all set up in the Teams. Earlier, the concept of Teams was mostly to use it for as a collaboration space. So I think that we went through that curve. Sometimes you also have to thank COVID that it increased the speed of adoption of certain things, because there was no choice. We have to learn and start working on it. So I think that we did. Apart from that, we already had a lot of footprints of our application footprint in Microsoft Azure in the cloud. So instead of depending something which is on the data center and things conking off, not able to go into data center, I think there were instances where we were able to do things on our own on Microsoft Azure. That helped a lot. And of course, the security part of it. So there were few things which we were already working on, few which we did later, because all of that we do when we do collaboration and we try to do things electronic. People sitting at home using their Wi-Fi network and then trying to connect to your infrastructure in the company without knowing that, probably they would have clicked on something and they would bring a malware inside the system. But I think there we were able to, like, pull it off and give that kind of platform to the organization where they're able to collaborate and keep the plans ready, execute, monitor from. I've seen instances where people were in the plant, wanted to show something to their operational manager sitting in the corporate office, and they were moving with the laptop or their phone connected through their Microsoft team, and they were showing it on the video. And they were, people sitting here were able to look at in the big screen and point out certain things from safety point of view and things. So there are conditions where somebody had to visit some place. They were able to do it remotely by using all this not so great technology, but just being there and using it to the maximum potential helped us, meet all this. So I think that was one part of more thing that were done there.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's not so great technology, but I can tell you, Vinod, that just the implementation of collaboration tools would be perhaps the number one technology adoption that most organizations would have done during the pandemic.
Yes.
We shouldn't demean that at all. So I think that was brilliantly done. You spoke also about Azure, right? My assumption would be that during the past 14 months, you would have started thinking about I need to be online. My business needs to be always on. So I need to now start migrating to the cloud. Uh, you know, what are the things that you consider? I mean, was that, first of all, a factor that in the past 14 months, you really started thinking about cloud in a more aggressive fashion? And if so, what are the criteria that you chose as the important criteria to move to the cloud?
So definitely. So what we have been working on and been looking at is just like any organization, do you identify your enterprise risk and try to mitigate that? So one of the area that we noticed that we have a SAP is our ERP. So we wanted to refresh our hardware, which was currently sitting in the on-prem data center. So again, it's a co-location, but it's still an on-prem thing. And we had an option to, upgrade it there itself or move to the cloud. And definitely there were a lot of benefits moving to the cloud, but again, it's a management decision. And even if IT is able to, convince, they are convinced, but you have to also get an approval. When COVID came, I think one thing that we realized, and there was one incident when during the lockdown, our SAP development system or the server had an issue, and it was a physical, something to do with the physical part of it. Trying to get that component and then getting it into the data center and asking this particular expert to visit that place and getting a permission, something which would ideally would have taken like few hours, went into like days. And imagine if this was a production server, we would probably stop everything on the track. So I think that so that all goes back to the resilience. Okay, so how can you have a resilient organization where things like these, now it is COVID, now unfortunately we are seeing a lot of cyclones, and there's one which is going to hit Orissa coast and West Bengal coast. So things like this could happen, but you need to be resilient to it. And I think we were able to build a very good use case. Not only was we able to build the resilience, but we also are able to get a cost advantage in terms of, showing it in the 3 years. What is the cost that you are able to, you're spending today in the data center, and what would you in the course. So I think we were able to build up a use case which was almost like a cost neutral as compared to what we are doing, giving all this advantage. And then also while we are doing it, we also moved our BI, which was also on-prem, which has to be close to your data, source of data, which is your SAP. So that is also moved. So now with that, almost everything that we have, which takes care of our business, is now on Azure. And SAP successfully migrated to Azure, so it's a good news and it's stable. And now we are doing the next part of it, which is migrating the database to the SOH, so suit on HANA, to make it more robust. So I think these are the things that is really helping us to become resilient.
Yeah. In my experience, by the way, that's great work, right? And as we work with corporates and large enterprises, so this whole movement towards the cloud is very, very prominent in the marketplace today. But often, many times, I've seen that people think that cloud could be that silver bullet that could help develop business continuity and maybe also reduce the spend, provide scalability, RASM, and all of that stuff. But often, many times, technology leaders realize, that once you are in the cloud, the spends go out of control. You don't know which work group is consuming how much, how do you build the controls, and so on and so forth, right? So how did you ensure that there is a return on investment on your cloud and software estate, when all of this is happening?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I think a lot of my peers and people who talk to me with trying to share my experience has come up with these questions. There's one thing that I think which is common, not only just in India, but across, is when you have an IT project, a traditional way of trying to put an ROI, like you say, this is a cash inflow, this is the benefit, and then you put an ROI, and then it has to be, the IRR has to be positive, and this, that. I think the whole thought process of the whole system, which is there, not just the people, but the process, is based on the model, which is not pay as you go. So you see what I'm saying is that thought process is not just IT changing, the whole organization in the value chain, right from people who are sponsoring, who are approving, the finance, they also need to get this into their, ahead and to put this change process, that there is something which is called as pay as you go, and this will be a recurring thing, which will be a
Yeah.
recurring thing. And you will, it's not the earlier investment that they have approved and seen was like you just pay something, it is like one sunk cost, and then next year onward there is maybe a license cost. But here this is a big volume which is going on. But what does it offer? I think that is something that people need to understand. So coming back to what you said, is that was one thing that we helped the organization, had a lot of discussion with the sponsors and the leadership. Unfortunately, I think they all got it. And the biggest thing that the biggest success thing I think that everybody needs to ensure is to make sure that for all this digital transformation and movement to cloud, there is a good leadership, sponsorship, and understanding of the business benefit from top. And what does it offer them in the long run? And how does it contribute to their direct, day-to-day benefit that they can derive? And ultimate, everything is done for the customer. So what is the customer delight, and how can we link it to their, delight? So I think that these are the things that we were doing, and then ROI and trying to keep up, making sure that you do not have a leak in the cloud. If you do not monitor and somebody spins off something without you knowing,
Yeah.
suddenly overnight you have a big bill, and it's like a
Yes.
shock. That is a risk that everybody runs into. I think we need to have a strong governance module, and I think all this cloud, just not just Azure. You talk about Google or AWS have tools. And unfortunately, that is the part which people sort of miss out, and they give a least important, that hey, you need to have a tool set which will be a sort of a dashboard, and you need to look at it every day, because
Absolutely.
it's so easy to spin off something, and at the end of the day there are people who are managing it, and they may just do something without knowing it and not realize that they have spun off something. And especially in cloud, when you have your VMs and you can package it into a product and you spin out something, it automatically spins off a lot of instances of that. So
Yes.
I've seen that happening in previous organizations, some experiences, but it all boils down to having a good governance in, even if it is simple to spin off something, there are certain rules which have to be followed, and you need to take permissions, and then somebody has to be monitoring, and it should be a maker checker set kind of thing that has to be put in place.
Absolutely, Vinod. The use of tools to understand creation of dashboards that help you see on a daily basis. Sometimes even the knowledge of the cloud provider, right? The VMs and where can you locate it from, what
Yeah.
kind of storage you're using. There are so many elements that go into creating that level of optimization. So glad to hear that. Which brings me to a question that you would have expected me to ask you upfront, right? And you spoke about it, digital transformation.
Yeah.
Whether I should call it a buzzword, or I should call it the fad, or things. But I am 101% sure that when COVID struck in March, and when you said with your executive management team, they would have asked you, what are we doing to digitally transform? So I am very keen to know, what are the elements of this digital transformation journey for Varrock? What's your vision around this?
So I think, as you said, digital transformation has sort of become a buzzword, but in reality, we have been doing something similar earlier. Like, suppose you can do your finance on a very small tool, but now you have taken up ERP. So did you really digitally transform? Maybe yes. So that time that word was not used.
Yeah.
Here, so whatever we're trying to do is, like, first of all, as I said, like, I gave you the gist of what is Varrock and what does it want to do. At the end, what Varrock wants to do is to keep their OEMs happy, give a good quality, meet the commitment which is given to the OEM. And at the same, because of all this, you will always keep on getting the business because your OEM trusts you. And then you also have to innovate and keep the cost down. So everybody is now after that, because especially with all the hits that we have got in COVID, there's no option but to manage the cost of operation. So the bottom line is, in a very key focus, everybody is watching it like a hawk. And so business digital transformation in Varrock is closely linked to the business vision and goals and the goal tree which is there for that. The key items on that goal tree and the vision is to optimize the cost, maximize the capex that we have invested in all these sites, that 30 plus sites and across the globe. Since you are part of the auto business, a lot of OEM would like to be very close to their manufacturing plant so that they minimize the risk of it. So doing that, one of the risks which COVID would have offered, that you have one location where you produce everything and then there's a lockdown. You cannot move from one state to other state. I think that was already mitigated, but it also adds to the cost because you have 30 sites. And so what we were trying to do is digital transformation. The journey was closely linked to this business benefits or business goal tree or vision, that is the capex maximization. Then you also need to keep a tab of, since people are working from home and there is changes as well, how do you train them and make sure that they are always up to the mark and give the best result and try to do more with less. So we had already talked about the collaboration tool, but we also working with HR. We brought in a learning management system which is online on the cloud, pay as you go SaaS model. So that is
Yes.
also implemented. And we are working on the IoT for this 32 plant, which is basically going to give you all the overall equipment efficiency, overall line efficiency, overall plant efficiency. Another thing that we noticed was the energy need of managing the energy, because energy, water, gas are the maximum contributor if you talk about the bottom line, along with the employee cost and all the other costs. So the indirect cost, you want to manage the energy cost. So how do you manage this? You get a visibility of what's happening on day-to-day basis. Use technology to catch the anomalies, do some forecasting prediction, and then give this data, clean data, to the management on everyday basis. So I think IoT is one big push that we are having. We already talked about moving our SAP to cloud, and then once this is done, our BI will also be there, and then we will be able to do more of predictive maintenance kind of data, along with integration of IT and OT. So the IoT projects that we are launching will also be tightly talking to the SAP, because there's no point in just having the IT data, OT data. What IT will be there, and then it will be fed into the BI to give all this to offer the intelligent insight to this. Apart from that, other aspect that we are working on is the RPA. So we are trying to see wherever possible there is a repetitive work which can be reduced by doing automation. Try to do it. Initially, the journey has started with trying something simpler, using simple tools, using Microsoft Power Automate and a lot of services from Azure, instead of doing a big bang with the premium RPA tools, which you have to pump in a lot of money. But you also need to have a lot of use case to utilize it fully. Ultimate aim is that, but start with something, build that culture, give that visibility. People understand that, hey, this can be done. This is the art of possibility, and they'll start asking for more. Yep. So I think these are the key one that we are trying to do. There are more.
Yeah, I think it's quite brilliant, Vinod. I think you answered a lot of stuff in this the last narrative that you gave us, right? So you really look at building a system where there's a lot of collaboration, so people can come and work wherever they are. It does not matter. Building the security to make sure that their environments are safe, and then you're really looking at how can you building what we call deep technologies, right? IoT, PAs, to bring in the next level of automation and analysis and predictive analysis for your businesses, right? So it's wonderful to know and how businesses have accelerated. It's wonderful to know how Varrock has accelerated in this space. A quick last question, how much, given the fact that a lot has happened in the last 14 months, Vinod, what do you expect the future to be like? I mean, how much percentage of your work do you think is going to be digital?
I cannot talk about the percentage, but I can talk about some aspect which, will remain. People will not let go and they'll continue with that. Which means I can already see that there is less travel. The need of travel, which used to be there, that, oh, this cannot be done without traveling. People are not even thinking of traveling, and it will stay. The collaboration on using online tool will reduce the travel, which directly impacts your run cost. Then simple things that we have done is to have touchless things that earlier we used to have attendance. Since it's a manufacturer organization, you usually have this fingerprint. a lot of places we have put in a facial recognition system, and it's working like brilliant. And it didn't take much time to adopt. There are cheap out-of-box solution that we were able to connect to our Azure database, and only the front pass just changed. So instead of fingerprint, it was this, and that will, I think, will stay for a longer time. And I think the overall, in terms of collaboration, things like about 2 days back, I was being part of the senior leadership team. I was part of a promotion board where we were interviewing somebody who was trying to present himself that, hey, this is why I should be promoted. This type of thing, rewards and recognitions in even the town halls, for which the leadership used to travel from here to there.
Yeah.
I could say town halls are more effective when we are doing it in the live event on Microsoft Teams, and people are given feedback that this is even better than sitting in the room and trying to find time for that. So I think these are the things which will still continue. And the other thing that we have started working, and it's also like helping, is I was a COVID joinee. So this is a new term which has been coined. So when I joined, it was lockdown. It was May when I joined Varrock.
COVID joining.
COVID
joining.
Yes, COVID joining. So it's a new term. So I had a lot of questions, and since I was not in office, usually you go and knock somebody's next door and say, hey, I have this question about this benefit. What can I ask? So I went through it and said, I approached the HR that why can't we just, you have all these policies documented. Why can't I just build a chatbot using the Azure services and build it as a part of Teams, Microsoft Team? It will be just like one person with a logo. And we tried doing a POC, and then now it is online, and all the new people who have joined, they just go online and say, I need to know about this maternity leave and the leave benefits and this, that, and performance management system. It takes you to the relevant system. It gives you some information, gives a link. And I think these are things which are now people are asking for more. Can I hook it up to this system? I don't want to go to this system and just do this query. Can I have a bot which can do it for me? I think these are the things which are going to stay. So a lot of part of this is going to remain. And these are like positive rub-off effect of something bad which has happened.
Yeah, I mean, yes, just before I came into this call, I was planning a virtual award ceremony for our organization. So I completely understand that. But I picked up a new word from you, COVID joining. We were talking all this while about COVID survivors. But I know for sure that Varrock is going to survive and thrive, because I think the technology is very responsibly and very futuristically held by you, Vinod. And I congratulate you on everything that you have done for Varrock. It's been brilliant talking to you. Those insights are going to be very, very valuable to all our listeners. So thank you so much for sharing your roadmap and your views on business and technology in Varrock. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, and you're welcome. Thanks.
Pleasure, Vinod. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.